Hi guys! All right, I am so excited. This is our first Instagram Live Manning into this. We're gonna keep these things going all year long. That's the plan. So here we are. I see Talinchi 311 has joined. Hi, my
No.
friend.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
Have I seen you since the new year?
Sure have not.
Oh
Happy
my,
New Year.
happy new year. Let me turn up the old volume.
Hi, sweet Fergie. I see
I
you. Hey, Jess. Hi, guys.
was like, that is so romantic, sweet, to call them Sweet Fergie. And then I remember that it's there.
Hey, listen, I'll call you a lot of things, okay? All right, guys. So today we are talking about showing up when maybe you don't like feel like it or want to. And this is coming off of the heels of last week. I was so sick. I was unable to even like show up for our Instagram live. So at that point in time, I was like, hey, kaput's not happening. And then today, where are you at, Melissa?
Everything hurts. I think as of last night, I think I have strep throat. So that's fun.
Not,
And I got
not
a couple other things going on, and I'm just not feeling at the height of my energy today.
fair,
Yeah.
fair. And how like often like this is normal that we would all go through these phases where like sometimes our bodies don't allow us to show up 100% the way we want to, or sometimes there's
Yeah.
stuff going on in our life or in our business where again just showing up in the way and the capacity that we want to, it's not an option. So then what do you do and how do you navigate either rescheduling or figuring out how you can show up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right? Like, when is that, like, where is the line between saying, no, 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 I made this commitment, I need to show up, versus saying, no, I need to, take care of myself and prioritize
Yeah.
rest? I don't know.
I don't
It's
know.
hard.
I don't
I
know.
think the answer is going to be different every
I
time.
think so too. So let's each share an example of time that we either didn't want to show. Let's maybe we didn't want to show up. Do you have one that comes to mind right away?
Um, no,
No.
no.
Okay.
I mean, there's been many.
I know.
I can't. But hold on, time out. Can I just say I love this color on you because your eyes look so blue, and I just
Well,
chef's kiss.
when you say stuff like that, of course you can pause to say. You know? Okay, so thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
I actually did just say I thought it was something that I laugh about all the time. It's part of like my story, and I share about the time that I didn't want to go in for this job interview.
Oh,
So this was actually like when I first started in the staffing industry. So it was my first staffing industry job. And I'm literally sitting in the parking lot. And because I was kind of just angry at that point, like some stuff that Shane and I had,
uh,
part of the plan
uh,
was falling apart. And so here I was literally answering this Craigslist job ad that I knew was like beneath my skills, but we just needed something right away. And I'm sitting in the parking lot and I'm on the phone with Shane and I'm like, I'm not going to this stupid interview. I'm not going. I'm not going. This is ridiculous. And where it didn't feel aligned. It didn't feel like something I wanted to even show up for. And in that moment, he was like, "You're literally in the parking lot. Go to the dang interview." And so obviously, I go to the dang interview, and I get a call later, and sure enough, they're like, "Listen, you're our number one candidate, but we're not going to offer you the job." And you're like, "What?" And they go, "We want to try you out in a recruiting role instead." And I was like, "Can you make money?" I remember that was the first response I said. It was like, "Can you make money?" And they're like, "Oh, you can make money." And I said, "Yes." And
Okay, wait.
so,
So the fact that you showed up anyway, even though you didn't want to, ended up getting you a better job than you expected.
uh-huh, see,
I feel like that's always how it effing is.
I know, I
Okay,
know.
I do have an
Okay,
example, but I don't want to be too specific with it,
okay,
because it may not be in the
fair.
past. There's something that I committed to do that I don't think I've made specific enough. Um,
Okay,
because maybe I haven't spent enough time on it to make it aligned enough, to make it specific and maybe powerful enough as I would want it to be. And so there's a part of me that's like, I just don't want to do it. Like, it's giving me anxiety. I don't want to do it. And then the other part of me though is, or the conversation in my head is like, well, do you not want to do it because it's going to push you, it's challenging, it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable in a good way? Or do you not want to do it because truly doing that is just not like aligned,
Aligned.
and it's not like something that's going to move you forward really.
Yeah.
It's just extra stuff to make you feel like you're doing things and getting things done.
And
Does
how
that
do
make
you,
does that make sense because
it
I'm
does.
keeping it vague?
Yeah,
Okay.
even with you talking in code, which is always so fun for everyone. Yes, it does. It does make sense because it's this generalized concept of like when you are to this point where you're starting to feel some resistance with
Yeah.
something, it's just that like doing our due diligence with either, um, the due diligence of like, hey, am I feeling resistance here because this is new and challenging and different and uncomfortable, or am I feeling some resistance here because it's not aligned, and and that's why this is so difficult.
Right.
um
And
so
actually
yeah.
that goes back, that reminds me of what you said earlier in your message about you're noticing that clients are asking you for something that wasn't really what you were thinking to offer. And then my question to that was like, because you're saying that you're thinking about pivoting. I think that's what you meant.
Yes.
Okay. So, and then my question was like, are you pivoting? Or that's another line that we have to be like, are we pivoting because what I wanted to do is taking longer, or I'm not getting the kind of positive reinforcement that I expected to get,
Mm.
versus like this other feedback I'm getting, it just seems like that's going to be easier, or it seems like that's going to be less, that path has already been trodden.
Yeah. And I think that also comes back to like the pivot that you're talking about. Oh my gosh, we're both speaking in code today. We really got to stop
Sorry.
this. um
If it was
yeah,
past,
okay.
I would be very clear about what
I
it was,
know.
but it's still coming up.
So, yeah, yeah, no, I think sometimes when we're talking about like showing up and how you decide to pivot from the, hey, I want to show up in this, or I maybe don't want to show up in this, or I've said I was going to show up in this, and how you pivot through that.
Yeah.
Um, I think sometimes it does depend like what the response is, or what kind of, and that's like what you're talking about with my pivot too.
Yeah.
The Because I think that feedback is a gift, and I think that feedback, um especially when it's coming from the right sources, that that's exactly what it's meant for. It's intended to guide. It's
Hmm.
intended to help us pivot so that we you can show up, I think, as our full selves. Does that make sense? I still feel like
Yes.
we're talking too much in code.
I know. No,
Yeah.
well, yeah, because we're not using super specific examples,
Yeah.
but like I'm thinking, um, that's what market research is, right? It's like putting
Mhm.
your product or service out there, getting feedback, and then adjusting so that the market you're aiming for wants and finds value in what you're serving. But then, oh, Jeff said something. When feeling down or
Mhm.
not feeling it can be a great time to do those monotonous admin tasks. True. To just kind of like, that's another thing. Like, it could just be a mood, right? Like, maybe you're just like, you don't have energy and you're just like, everything is hard today.
Yeah,
Um,
and in that moment is not necessarily a great
decision
time
making.
to make a decision. Yeah.
But so, okay, there's market research, but then let's say I do business and wealth strategy, right? So I'm very passionate about those things. And let's say I started my business wanting to do those things, but then everybody who came to me wanted just general life coaching. I guess I mean, there's so much overlap there that maybe that's not even a good example, but
No, I think it could be.
would I stop marketing business and financial coaching to then just market life coaching?
But to some degree, if that marketing of financial coaching that you've been doing is getting a, is still delivering you your ideal client, then how much do you really pivot your messaging?
True.
Like in your mind, you're like, well, this isn't clear, but but statistics and data and results would say that it's actually putting the right people right in front of you. So sure, maybe small tweaks here and there, but I don't think it's a full overhaul, which sometimes I think our brains like to think a full overhaul is required.
Okay, so in your example with the feedback you've been receiving, what is the pivot that you're thinking to, or the change you're thinking to make? Do you mind? If you don't want to share, it's okay.
I was like, we're talking in code today. Like, this is a code day. Like, this can't no.
Okay. That's fine.
And okay, wait a second. Are we talking pivots or showing up? Like how we're showing up?
Okay, let's go back to
Like you're
showing
throwing
up.
me for loops here.
What else do we have to say about showing up? I don't know.
I think that sometimes it's okay if you know you can't. I think sometimes it's okay if you know that you can't show up fully, and to show up with your 80% self. I think that's okay, as much as it's okay to fully reschedule. Like, okay, and some things you can and some things you can't. So another example that just came to mind was like, okay, so the night before the big powerhouse conference, I go out, get a concussion, yay me. And so the next day, like the event of like 800 women is going to happen whether I show up or not. And like either in those networking opportunities and connections and stuff like that. So to what capacity, with concussion and all, was I really able to show up? I would say I still rallied pretty darn good with an 80 to 90%.
I feel like your energy level is not normal for most humans. I feel like your 80% is like the normal person's 100%. Does that make sense? Did I say that right, or is it inverse? But
not
you
the
know what
first
I
time
mean.
I've been told that. Not the first time. Like,
Okay.
yes.
So like your 80, you going in there with a concussion is like my normal amount of showing up, you know. But
Whatever.
yes, that, and I just remember you sitting at the table. I don't know if that was the night.
It was
I
the
don't
night.
remember when
It was the
that was
night
the night.
after. Yeah, the
And you
night,
were
or
just
the night
like,
after the day.
but you were still there. You were still having deep conversations at the table
Somehow,
hours
somewhere,
later.
somehow,
Yeah,
some way. So I
very
think,
true.
and I think that's another thing too. I do think that like we show up for the things that are most important for us.
Yeah.
Like if something is that important to us, and perfect example, like you here today, hands out. Like let's just call it what it is. This is important to you. I'm important to you. I know that. And so like, and so you show up for the things that are important to you, even if you can't give your 100%. And then in the rare occasion that you just can't lift your head, you just can't do it, it's okay to reschedule.
Yes. And I think, it's very, I think circumstance based too, right? Like, as you're saying, if I can't think straight, there's was a moment where I was just like, not today, but like another time where I think, no, it wasn't today. It was, so everyone, just so everyone knows, I have two herniated discs in my low back. And so every once in a while, more frequently than I would like, they get kind of like triggered and I am in serious pain. So like one day I was given like muscle relaxers and they said that I would be okay daytime to like do work and stuff. I was not okay. I was loopy. And so in that moment, of course, I had client meetings and so I couldn't do the meetings because I didn't feel like I could provide any service of value whatsoever, right? Like, but if it's like today, I just feel low energy. I don't feel like I'm, like my brain isn't functioning
Yeah.
as, maybe a little slower than normal, but and so I think it has to do with all those, but I could have easily been like, oh, I don't feel good, let's not do it,
You could,
right? So
but
I
I think
just,
to Jeff's point, like what he just mentioned in the comments is like, then if you wake up in the morning, the day's not obviously going to go as planned because you just simply cannot, like body won't allow you to show up the way you want to, then the pivot is like reprioritize what the day's actually going to look like manage your expectations. And maybe instead of doing an afternoon of client outreach, like good luck if you can make it to the afternoon, it's a day of admin stuff,
right.
and you flip flop that out.
That's a
I
great
think that's
point.
important too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, But I think something you said earlier that we were chatting about
Mhm.
before our call is just that it's okay to show up in maybe client meetings or with your coworkers or with whoever it is as not your fullest, best, most energetic self. Honestly, I was supposed to go on a date the other day, and this person had something that wasn't that great happen, some news. And this was the day before our date, they had this news. And so then the day of our date, even though we had been chatting and, whatever, they canceled right before because they couldn't show up as their best self.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I don't care. Like, I don't even know who your best self is. Nobody
Mm.
knows what our best self is. They don't know, for the most part, that we're not like as quick as we normally are or whatever. And so it's it's kind of like it's part of life. We
It
have
is.
ups, we have downs,
Yeah.
so it's okay.
And you're totally like triggering something that is so important for me, especially like in work environments, the ability and the power of showing up authentically, and
Oh,
how it is okay, especially as leaders in organizations, like it's a requirement the best leaders show up authentically. And if you darn well know that you can't show up to that
mhm.
meeting 100%, it's okay to set the scene, manage everybody, and say, hey, I'm not showing up 100% today. And
Yeah.
like owning that, and the power, especially for a leader to do that, it again, to your point, it humanizes
Mhm.
everybody. And then, okay, hey, we can all strap our boots on together the same way and move forth, instead of someone either trying to put on a front that they can't maintain, or to your point, like canceling on something that you don't even know how it could have worked out.
And it reminds me of the whole thing about love, right? Like, by you allowing, by
Yeah,
you receiving my love, that's also giving me value
it
because
is.
it makes me feel good to give love. Same thing in these moments, whether it's corporate, on a date, whatever, it's giving me the opportunity to be empathetic,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And so again, in the workplace, right? Like, make more space for empathy. If people
Mm-hmm.
are only ever showing up as their like best, most energetic, like high on 12 cups of coffee self, or maybe something else, where there's no space to even remember what empathy is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, question for you. I don't know why this is coming through. How often, just in like your normal day to day, how often do you think that you show up as like 100%? That's a, I don't know where that question's coming from.
Oh, I mean, that's a
Mm,
good question. I don't think I've ever thought of
deep
that
one.
before.
I know.
Um,
Start a deep one. Whoa there, Betsy.
so for me, one of the things that I feel like is really necessary to showing up 100% or as close to
Yeah.
that as possible is focus. So if, like, I work from home, I work on the computer, I'm on Zoom calls all day,
Yeah.
right? If my daughter is home and like not sleeping when I'm doing my meetings and she's walking around behind me, she's watching TV, I'm not 100%. I
Yeah.
can't I can't focus
Mm-hmm.
100%. And so yeah, for me it's like I really try to structure my time and my spaces so that I can put that 100% focus, because when I'm able to do that, I feel like I'm at least closer to giving my 100%.
Yeah. And
Coffee
that's
also
in,
helps me
that's
give
like in, and
100%.
that's probably true for like in work, as mom,
Yeah.
like, I mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I used to be able to multitask, and so I've heard somewhere that it's just a
They
myth
say
all the way around,
that. Yeah,
multitasking.
they do say that.
But yeah, I can't multitask anymore. I have to do one task, complete it, and then move on to another one in order for it to be like any sort of good.
Yeah. I think it, for me, I do. I think it probably fluctuates more than I think about it, like more than I'm intentional with it. Even though I'm really intentional with things, like I'm just trying to think. It's like, okay, like right now, I'm showing up so much in my business to
Hmm.
where it's like, if I'm being honest with myself, and I'm sure that Shane would agree, I'm maybe not giving Shaney Poo all of the love and attention, like showing up 100% as the wife I
Mm,
do.
okay.
Um, And so I think that maybe all depending on what area of life, and I think that we kind of bucket into, I know with a lot of my life coaching stuff, it's like the 7 areas. It's like physical health, mental health, spiritual health, career, personal growth, relationships. And I think that in some ways, like I'm showing up 110%, and in other ways, they're probably lacking. And I think it's it bounces back and forth what's going to require attention or what needs to
100%.
kind of bounce, or where does my focus need to be. And I do think that like power of and both and all those things, I think you can be 100% everywhere.
Ooh.
I just think it takes intentionality.
Oh, that's I disagree.
Ooh, is this for like next week when you are your sharpest self?
I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be any different today than today, honestly. I think this is as good as it gets on a normal day.
Give it to me. Go.
No, but I actually don't believe in, I feel like we talked about this. I don't believe in full balance. Like I think we have a finite amount of energy per day,
The cup.
and I think, yeah, and I think, sometimes we can like garner a little bit more. We can like pump ourselves up and maybe like get a little more energy. But like, I think that I see it as like this fountain with orbs, and the
Okay.
orbs are being held up by streams of water. And the water is the energy that we have, or the
Okay.
attention that we have. And so it's like, if you're building a business, that's going to require more energy than when you're not building a business, right? So that's going to have to take energy away from Shani Poo for like a short period of time. And then maybe, you kind of let that go down a little bit. You
Yeah.
give a little less energy to that because it's starting to do well. And now you can give more energy to Shani Poo, or to going to the gym, or to doing, whatever the other areas of your life are. But I definitely, for me, it's like, if I try to put 100% into every area of my life, which, as I'm saying that, I'm like, that quote, how you do some things is how you do
Yeah.
everything. Then I'm like, I've got the two sides in my head. But really, if I was trying to give 100% to everything, I feel like I would burn the F out and like
I,
be mad at myself all the
and I
time.
don't think it's 100% to everything. It's 100% to the right things.
Okay.
And I think sometimes, like, to your point, so where I can like, yes, and yes, I can see that at in different seasons, different things are going to be the priority.
Right.
At the same time, I also think that like when we are watering, because I like that analogy with the water
Yes.
and the orbs, like when we're watering the most fundamental pieces of our lives,
Mm-hmm.
that then, while yes, it still requires intentionality and like energy, the return on that investment is exponential. Like, just because you put in 10% energy to that doesn't mean you're only going to get 10% out of it. You put in 10%, like, and I use this example because I've seen it with Shane and I. So, we've put in the work on our marriage, and it's solid. And I know that when there are seasons in our life
Oh, yeah.
where the marriage maybe isn't getting the 100%, my 90% still comes back at the 100%.
I
And
like
so
that.
I think it just, and so I think maybe that's where like the
Quality.
balancing act
Yeah, it's quality,
is.
right?
Totally.
Like the time that you are spending, or it's like, if this is coming, then you put extra attention and water and sunlight on
Yeah.
that thing, so that it kind of bides you while
Yeah.
you're working on this other thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a great strategy. It takes
Working.
planning,
Oh
but
man.
that's a great.
Intentionality. Yeah.
But even if it happens after, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're working on whatever it is now, and then you're like, okay, I've done this for 3 months, like super focused. Now I need to put attention on this.
Yeah.
And you do that, like you put a lot of attention on that for a little while. And maybe it's not 100%
But the
of the
ROI
time, but
is still coming in
yeah.
exponentially more than what you're putting into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Ooh.
so interesting.
Ooh.
Like, what that would be a good question. Like, what areas of your life do you see that kind of, you put in, let's say 10% of energy, but you get
Mm.
back 50%?
Yeah, I like
The
that.
80/20 rule,
Yeah.
right? You spend your
Yes.
time. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, my friend. Look at us. We did it.
I'm about to go pick up 3 11-year-olds. Can I just stay here?
I don't get it. You have so much fun with that.
I'm just gonna give them ice cream and put them in my daughter's room, and I'm gonna take a nap.
I hope you blissfully sleep it away. Okay. All right. Until next time, same place. Bye.
See you next week. Bye. Bye, Jeff.